Your favorite NFL team out of the playoffs? The Saturday night game looks like a dud. No problem. Sportswire Radio has you covered because I'm excited about this one here because we're about to have a doubleheader of wrestling championship entertainment coverage, and there is a lot of news and developments here in WCE Plus with our guest here tonight on Sportswire Radio. Haven't had him on in a while, and he's bringing back a championship and, in a way, a company that he certainly had quite a history with and much, much more. So let's get right to it. So wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one global sports show. Wrestling star they call the resident rock star, the Wrestling Championship Entertainment award winner for Best Mic on the Year. His name is the resident rock star, Shawn Jovi. We are living on a prayer with you, my friend, because we have you here to kick off 2023. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Tom. You know that intro never gets old. I'm finally starting to not laugh when it happens. I'm finally starting to show no emotion for it, but
well, I appreciate
it's so good. It's so good.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, certainly that's something that I get. In fact, I had one wrestler that came on not too long ago, and he was making a joke on some of the things that he had dreaded. And I said, well, maybe coming on SportsWire. And he said, no. He said, I actually like the introduction. So I'm like, all right, well, we've accomplished something. But my friend, very, very good to be with you here. We have a lot to talk about here tonight. And I want to kick off here with the news that has been heard around the world here when it comes to wrestling championship entertainment, because an old foe, an old friend, and a familiar championship in a company that you held court for a very, very long time looks like it's returning, and that is Rona's Championship Wrestling and the resident rock star Shawn Jovi. For those that are listening here and watching on SportsWire Radio, talk about it.
So RCW, Rona's Championship Wrestling, was a backyard federation I came up with when I was a teenager. And we wrestled on a trampoline, fun, kicks and giggles. But that went down, and I think that went under in about 2010, 2011. The belt was used on and off for other things in between, but I decided when WC first started to bring the RCW title into it as a temporary title to use before we got our own. And that was in our first year. And after Fight or Fright, not last year, but the year before, we decided to retire it when I reobtained it off of Craven Rage. But new year, new things, right? So I miss the RCW title, and I miss what it stood for: the fun, the entertainment, everything about it. And I never got to hold like an actual like physical title. Oops, this is upside down. Like an actual like title with the RCW logo on it. So I went and upgraded it, and I am going to be using it for exclusive matches through WCE on my vlog on YouTube. So that's where those matches will air. They will also appear alongside the show, but the match for the RCW title every show will be airing first. It'll air before the whole show is released on my channel exclusively.
And of course, and we certainly look forward to that. And of course, everybody can follow the resident rock star Shawn Jovi on YouTube and Facebook. And on YouTube, Jovi's vlog has 517 subscribers. So a lot of people are going to definitely be checking this out. And I got to think that going into the season, the resident rock star, this is going to give you a lot of motivation here. Because now that you've got the title back, this is the company that was your baby for all those years. So I've got to think here that this is going to give you a lot of motivation already going into a big season ahead here in WCE.
Oh, yeah. And with the way the season tragically ended for me last year with the whole COVID bug and me losing my interstate championship shot because of it, it's kind of nice to enter the new year with a new, refreshing outlook and take on the whole thing. And this RCW championship is the first way to start.
No question about that here. And let me get to some comments. Adonis Felio is in the house. He says, "Evening, Tom," and good evening to you as well. And, the resident rock star, Shawn Jovi, for those that may be listening and watching this on Sports Wire Radio, I was also curious. And I mean, talk about the history of the company, some big moments, because I know there was a big history here that goes back a long time because you started the company back in 2007. And I know last year was the 15-year anniversary. But I mean, talk about some of the big moments in the company's history.
Right. There was quite a few. We started with a roster of 5 guys, including myself, in 2007. We were all pretty much juniors, freshmen, whatever, in high school. Just wanted to do some for kicks and giggles. 2 of which are actually affiliated with WC, other than myself, Darkfire and
Mm,
Belial. Those were 2 of my guys who helped start the whole thing.
mm,
And some other highlights we've had some good ones. We've wrestled on trampoline. We've wrestled on a base, which is like mattresses and whatnot. But and we also had ourselves a super show right before the group folded.
mm.
That consisted of some people from Indiana I knew. They came up and we had a big show. It was pretty fun. Some of the other matches, we don't have like anything crazy, super crazy, famous match wise. It was more of a childhood idea.
Okay, makes sense.
Most of my memorable matches kind of expanded outside of RCW. I had some great rivalries in RCW. Don't get me wrong, with Darkfire, with Rex Renegade, people like that. But I feel like once that group folded and I branched out is when more of the bigger matches happened.
Certainly, that makes sense. And let me get to a few more comments from Adonis Felio. He also says, "Good evening to you, resident rock star. Wants to wish everyone a happy new year and a happy Jovi year, WCE style." And, you brought up Indiana for a second. There's a couple of questions I have. Let me go to Indiana first because I find that fascinating in itself that you wrestled in a state like that. And I think I might have asked you this in the past, but since obviously we're going back down memory lane here once again with the news, once again here with RCW returning here to WCE, and it'll be an opener almost for all WCE shows, which I believe are going to start sometime in April. Obviously, let's keep our fingers crossed the weather holds up, but that's the tentative plan. So we're not that far away. But I mean, what was that like? I mean, traveling from Wisconsin to Indiana and wrestling in those places. I mean, talk to me about how that all kind of unfolded.
It was wild. So the group I went to in Indiana, Indiana Championship Wrestling, was around for longer than what RCW was.
Hmm.
They started quite a few years before me, but they also wrestled on a trampoline. And then they went to the base, and then they went to the ring and all that good stuff. And I think I can't remember how I discovered them, but I was scrolling through YouTube and found these guys, and I was just super inspired by what they did and how much quality they put into the work for what little they had to work with. And I thought, and they really expanded and went out. They were actually an indie promotion for a little bit until some things happened a couple of years ago. But as far as traveling goes, that was pretty wild. Considering I do not have a driver's license,
That makes two of us. That makes two of us.
yeah. So I had to take a Greyhound from the Green Bay Metro station all down to Chicago, down to Indianapolis, and get picked up from there to go to the shows. It was a lot of coordinating and a lot of traveling, but just to be able to meet the guys and be able to work with them over the years, it was a great time. It was worth every penny I spent to go there. Every memory I've had, it was all worth it.
How do you
100%.
how do you think that maybe helped you not just in your wrestling career, but maybe I guess in your overall life? Because again, you don't have a driver's license. You're going down there. It's obviously a travel in itself. especially to get around. Because in New York, I mean, we can certainly find ways to get around easily without mass transit, but it's certainly different in places in the Midwest, especially
Oh yeah,
Wisconsin. So, I mean, so what did you learn from that experience? Let's say from the wrestling end of it, but also maybe outside in your day in day life.
um, well, it's nice to travel. Every place you go in the world is different, and that's what I kind of like. Indiana was a change of scenery. There's not much there. I'm gonna be honest.
Sure.
There's no corn mazes for you to enjoy in the city.
I did enjoy that.
Uh,
I did enjoy that.
yeah. But it's weird, like just finding these guys on YouTube and just going out to visit them. I made it a tradition for a few years just to try and pop in for a show or two every so often. And then in 2017, they got a ring and everything, and I just started going there again. And I met a lot of great friends along the way, made a lot of memories. Uh, it was a really fun 2010s era with those guys, and with the guys in Chicago I knew too. Like I've been a lot of places.
Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, you think about it in those kind of moments, whether you're in, let's say, just into college or going, senior years in high school. And those are kind of the moments you kind of hold and cherish because obviously we're all at a different time and every stage is different. But when you kind of go outside from that, you kind of have to adjust differently. And then you've brought up the trampoline. And I was kind of curious about that for those that are listening and watching. I mean, what was that like in maybe kind of wrestling and being able to kind of keep up on a trampoline wrestling outside? I mean, I'm kind of curious on how that
Uh,
maybe helped you.
Honestly, I don't even know how I pulled it off.
I was
It's
going to
fun.
ask. I'm like, how did you pull that off?
I mean, we were younger, so it's a little bit more fun. But honestly, the weirdest part about the trampoline, obviously, besides the fact you're bouncing, which makes everything awkward and unrealistic in a wrestling world. That's why I was like, it's more of a play around thing than an actual like headlock and everything. But what was I gonna say? It was the trampoline is not easy. I do not recommend people wrestling on a trampoline. I'm just gonna be straight up honest.
Well, I
There's
would
way better
imagine
ways.
so.
I
Yeah.
would rather have you wrestle on a mattress where you're not gonna break someone's neck by trying to German them on a
Well,
surface where it's bouncy and could easily break a neck or something like that.
I would have to imagine though that it maybe taught you a bit, maybe in a way, what not to do in the ring. I mean, obviously, doing
Oh,
something where you have to really, I mean, really, really be cautious. I mean, it's one thing, right, to wrestle when you're actually inside a ring, and it's
right.
another to be able to wrestle in something like a trampoline. I mean, I just have to imagine you learn so much because everything literally is like at the snap of a finger.
Oh yeah, it was wild, and we even wrestled on the ground a few times. Like anything like involving like weapons or whatever, we always did ground matches because we tried setting up a chair in the ring once, and it went through right through the poked a hole in the trampoline
Oof,
draw.
oof.
So I was like, well, I can't use weapons in the ring anymore. It's gonna break the canvas. We cannot use this.
Well, that's a good idea, and I want to give a shout out to somebody that has a comment about you, the resident rock star Shawn Jovi, and he's got a comment about that championship that you have on your shoulder, and his name is, of course, Craven Rage. You might have heard of him. Of course, you and him have had quite a number of wars over the past year or so in WCE. Of course, he is our undisputed Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite champion. And he says, "Evening, Mr. Tom Brice, and evening, Mr. Shawn Jovi. That RCW title looks great, and I'm looking forward to seeing that title coming into a new era of wrestling championship entertainment. I am definitely interested in having it around my waist, which I am looking forward to having you fall to me again. Boy, is it me, the resident rock star Shawn Jovi, but have shots already been fired in WCE when it comes to this RCW title that you have on your shoulder right now?"
Well, I mean, I lost my shot at Craven's title, so Craven, you worry about your title. I'll worry about mine. That's all I gotta say. And when the time comes, I'll beat you again.
But
Hopefully. this time.
But
He is undefeated last year. I'll give him all the credit in the world for that.
well, yes, and that's my point. He's now basically declaring that he wants that championship. I mean, does that
Oh,
mean he does? Is there a number one contender? I mean, what's the plans? I mean, everyone's listen, we have more comments about the championship, by the way. So, I mean, I'm assuming that you're going to have to figure out who's in line to take this championship away from you, and you're going to fight like hell. I know to keep it.
yep. It's my baby. And honestly, my plan for the first show is open challenge. Whoever is there and wants their shot, come and get it.
Oh,
Gotta be at
wait. You want to repeat that again for those that are listening and watching here on Sports Wire Radio, the resident rock star, Shawn Jovi?
Sure, absolutely. My first match for the RCW Championship in April, or whenever we start up, depending on weather and all that. I plan on making it an open challenge to anyone in the back. It can be WCE, it can be someone from somewhere else. I don't really care. I just want to defend this and add prestige to it. So if anyone wants to step up and face the resident rock star, you have an opportunity in April.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I interpreted this as anybody out there in the wrestling world. That could be free agents galore. I mean, who knows what happens with CM Punk at AEW? Maybe he says, you know what, AEW, Tony Khan, let me out of my contract. I want to square off with Shawn Jovi for the RCW title. I mean, listen, Mandy Rose, her 30 days is up. I mean, maybe she even wants to come in to WC and get the RCW title. I mean, there is a who's who of people in the wrestling world that very well could be saying, you know what? I want that championship. That's the premier championship in all of wrestling. We have people with the likes of C2K, who's always with us every week on Sportsfire Radio, talking about the legend of C2K. We had John the Rock Jackson, 18-time world champion from RWF. Maybe he wants a crack at the championship. I mean, listen, who knows? If WWE gets bought by the Saudis, maybe Sami Zayn's a free agent. Instead of worrying about if he's an oos, he could be worrying about if he's carrying the RCW championship. I mean, there is a who's who of people here on Sportswire Radio that we know of could very well want this championship. And let's get to some comments here. Adonis Felios has said, let me be the first to say, I accept. I mean, the resident rock star, I mean, are you accepting Adonis Felio being, let's say, the first to declare his shot at the RCW championship?
I mean, like I said, it's first one through the curtain on the day of the show. So, I mean, you can accept all you want. Anyone can accept. It's just a matter, are they going to be there when the time comes?
So that even means, that even means, ladies and gentlemen, even some of those big names, those heavy hitters that we mentioned, if they don't get through that curtain first, they ain't getting a shot at the title. They're right in the back of the line. They got to go figure out what their plans are next. They're going to have to go from wherever they came from here. I mean, this is a huge, huge development. And I want everybody, first of all, to follow RCW. RC Rules. That is RC Rules. That is RCW, Rona's Championship Wrestling. Please follow Rona's Championship Wrestling for all the great things that the company does here. Certainly, we want to make sure that we support those here on Sportsfire Radio that support us. We also want everybody to follow Wrestling Championship Entertainment. You can do that here on WCE Heat, WCEHeat.com, YouTube, WCE Heat, which is the link, the ad handles where you can find all things related here to WCE coverage, and we will have coverage throughout the months here on Sportswire Radio leading up here to the season. Also have here this individual who I think we all know of, and he says here, nice championship. And Craven Rage, by the way, gives you an LOL. I mean, any thoughts on Craven Rage's LOL before I get to the next comment?
I've never really seen Craven laugh out loud, so I call shenanigans.
All right. Well, I mean, I tell you what. I mean, looking at the picture of that championship on the Facebook page, again, RCW Rules on Facebook and YouTube. You can find out more on the history of Rona's Championship Wrestling. I would say stay tuned. And also want to give a shout out to one of our recent guests here on Sportswire Radio. That is Prince Charles. And he says, good evening. The Prince is in the house. And I mean, maybe he's declaring that he wants in on this open challenge for the RCW championship. I don't know. I mean, everybody's, I'm sure, going to have something to say about it. I am sure the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, who's in the back waiting to come on later on here on Sports Wire Radio, he's going to have something to say about it. And I think everybody here is fired up about the news here regarding it. And I also wanted to bring up here, before we get into some more stuff related to Wrestling Championship Entertainment, obviously, you were also named Best on the Mic this year. But we have some new music. I saw we have a brand new entrance theme, and talk about that for those that are listening here on Sports Wire Radio. And what kind of led you to the new entrance music?
Right. So, oh man, it's kind of a long story, but my new theme right now is by Steel Panther, and it's a cover of Backstreet Boys. I Want It That Way. I know it sounds hilarious on paper. It sounds absolutely terrible, but let me enlighten the fans. So, as a resident rock star, even with the last name Jovi, people are like, "Oh, like Bon Jovi." I mean, like, of course, but there's more to Shawn Jovi than just being a Bon Jovi off Wish. There's more
Well,
to it. That's where the resident rock star comes into play. And I wanted something that gave myself a unique look to break away from the Jovi aspect that I have been carrying myself with for quite some time. And one great thing about professional wrestling and one great thing about professional wrestlers are those who can rebuild themselves and reinvent themselves. I've always been a fond believer in that. Chris Jericho is one of my idols for that reason alone. So that's kind of where the inspiration. I want it to be a new year, a new Shawn Jovi, a new season with chances. And hey, I got my logo on the back of my jacket now. So I don't know if y'all can see it,
I see a
but
little bit. Unfortunately, you're a little cloudy tonight, but we saw
uh,
some of it. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do, but it's a nice logo. It's the same logo I had before, just black and pink and white. It's a new color scheme to kind of electrify and get people amped for a new Shawn Jovi.
Well, listen, I mean, you did bring up Chris Jericho, and certainly he's always been able to rejuvenate himself. And listen, John Bon Jovi himself, I mean, Bon Jovi was able to survive all the trends and have number one records and still be as massive as he was in the 80s. I mean, you think about his career for a second before we go back into wrestling. I think about Keep the Faith, These Days, Crush,
Yeah,
Balance, The Lost Highway. I mean, Have a Nice Day. I mean, listen,
it goes on forever.
I mean, he was really, again, he's really the only artist from that kind of how can I put it, kind of that hair metal, hair, whatever you want to call it, hard rock era of the 80s that was able to still stay as relevant as he is almost up until today. So, I mean, that's certainly a great segue. And Steel Panther, a little bonus, I actually just realized this, and when we were kind of talking, that the actual singer of a Steel Panther actually used to be in a Van Halen tribute band called the Atomic Punk. So for whatever reason, I was kind of thinking there had to be some tie into some band here. Maybe Shawn Jovi is going off and branching out a little bit, and that could certainly see why. But I do have some comments, so let me get to the comments. People don't want to hear me talk about Bon Jovi's discography and where the Steel Panther band comes from. Nicholas Crenson has already put the clock emoji, so you know that Nicholas Crenson has a lot to say. We'll get to him though, but the resident rock star is up first. Craven Rage says, Shawn Jovi, if you do step into my yard, spoiler alert, you know if you face me, you know you're facing the beast, the goat, and you will fall to me. And you know what happened last time. I took that title before. I can definitely do it again. You want to respond to that?
Yeah, why not? I mean, Craven, that's a nice spoiler. You are what 3-1 on me, but remember, your only loss in WC and in wrestling in general is to me. I'm going to have that cloud over your head until you lose that championship.
Mm.
And even though I can't technically challenge for it because I lost at Three Doors Down, doesn't mean somebody out there is going to get it. And when you're dethroned, hey, if I'm still champ at the time, maybe we can do it again. But make sure you know that this time it's going to be different. We can have any match you want, but I'm going to come out on top this time. Because, like I said, it's a new year, a new Shawn Jovi, and it's going to be a rocking year, and I promise that.
Well, I think it's going to be maybe just as, or if not more rocking than what you used to see rocking with Dick Clark New Year's Eve, because I got a feeling that the resident rock star, Shawn Jovi, is going into 2023 with a big, big bang. Let me get to some more comments here because I've got a bunch of them. Because I think people right now are looking at the Chargers and Jaguars games, and basically the game is over and they're coming here to SportsWire because the game, spoiler alert, is a blowout right now. So that's good for us here because that means
Wait,
more
wait, wait,
people are
wait.
tuned
Who's
in.
losing? Who's
Jacksonville
losing?
is Jacksonville. It's
Ah,
it's
man, my
20.
dream of the Cons getting a WWE title was ruined.
No, well, yeah, it's definitely ruined, and I'm sure that they're going to have plenty of people probably leave that building here soon because it looks like it's going to get
Yeah,
very ugly, if not
I hope
already.
I tune in.
But we have a comment here from John Dietrich here. I haven't seen John here before. When's Jovi going to stop listening to soft ass music and start listening to the heavy stuff? I mean, is that a
Uh,
shot at you?
uh, well, first off, he's my boss at the
Oh,
job.
okay.
Other
Fair
than
enough. Fair enough.
that, no, that's actually hilarious. Uh, he is he's not a Bon Jovi fan, but it's always funny we talk about it at work. He says if he ever became president, he would ban Bon Jovi. I'm like, well, you can ban Bon Jovi, but you can't ban my gimmick.
But why would he want to ban Bon Jovi for? Because even if you're not a Bon
No.
Jovi fan, you got to respect their longevity. I mean, you
Oh
think
yeah,
about. I
oh
mean,
yeah, absolutely.
again,
Everyone's
looking
got
at,
their
at
take,
the
though.
looking at their career, I mean, again, not to go on a soapbox rant here, but I mean, you think about their albums: "Slippery When Wet," "New Jersey," "Keep the Faith,"
Mhm.
"These Days," "Crush," "Bounce," "The Lost Highway." I mean, he's got
They
a
go on
resume.
forever.
It goes on
He
forever,
does.
and there's really very few bands that could say that. I mean, so I guess
Oh
that's
yeah,
his.
he's got a Hall of Fame career, that's for sure.
Oh, and
He
he was
really is
able
in the
to
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
and he was able to adapt. I mean, he went from being an opening act for Judas Priest and the Scorpions to going into country. So I mean, good for him. But I'll move on. Adonis says, "Move over, Seth freaking Rollins." And Nicholas Crenton, the new Messiah, he has a comment directed at you because he says, "No, that clock is for Jovi. Everything is a matter of time." What do you interpret that comment from the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenton, who's going to be on here in a little while?
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but this upcoming weekend, Jovi's vlog, I actually had a little confrontation with Crenson for the first time in the off season on camera.
Ooh,
So,
ooh.
yep. So I will say to tune in this week. I think I'll have it up on Monday or Tuesday and see what his intentions are. I kind of got an idea what they are, but hey, same offer. There's an open challenge coming up. Crenson, if you want to stop my clock, now's your time.
Now, should I ask Mr. Crenson about this when he comes on in a little while on Sports Wide Radio? Should I ask him this, or should I wait till the vlog comes out?
You can do either. I don't care.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. I
You're the
mean,
host,
certainly.
man. You're the
Well,
host.
I mean, actually, I do have a question here before I get to Nicholas Crenson again about vlogs, because I'm pretty sure I saw this on the one of the more recent vlogs out there where it kind of showed, I believe it was James Marshall's house moving away from Medford, Wisconsin. And I believe Mr. Crenson was outside smoking a cigarette with shorts. And I had brought this up on Sports Wire Radio a few days ago, and I figured you might know something about this. Was that Mr. Crenson in the vlog, actually in this kind of in the cold weather snow flurries, helping out there with shorts and a sweater, smoking a cigarette, or was that somebody else? I'm just
I must
curious
have.
now.
No, Crenson wasn't able to help us move James's stuff that day. I'm not
So
sure
in
who you're.
well, it was somebody in the video. It almost looked like Crenton. He had glasses, a sweater.
Oh, oh, that was Darkfire probably.
All
He
right,
got
well,
glasses recently.
okay.
Otherwise, if you're thinking of Crenson, we did do a highlight package in that vlog, so
Yes,
that
I
might
did
have
see
been
that.
there.
All right, and I have a comment here, I guess, from an upcoming guest, and I usually don't put these type of comments in here before I get to Nicholas Crenson. Adam Morgan, who we're going to be speaking with very soon on Sports Wire Radio, says, "I want to see you defend the belt in a bra and panties match." I think he's being
I don't want.
facetious there. Yeah,
I mean, if he loves the big, sexy, big guy, I mean, I guess I don't blame you, but that kind of would set the business back quite a few years if we went back to Brown
yeah.
Panties.
I had a comment from somebody that's one of our listeners who actually liked our video at the beginning, Anthony Finkel, and he was going on about the WWE, and he was saying Vince has got to bring back the bra and panties, and I'm like, bro, that's never coming back. They're a corporate company, and WCE is family friendly to an extent as well, and I unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you see things, don't see that those things are coming back here. Nicholas Crenson also wants to say, yeah, it was a clip of us getting in the ring. Okay, fair enough. I
All
appreciate
right.
that confirmation. He also says fighting words, Adonis Felios. He felt that was from Nicholas Crenson. And Nicholas Crenson wants to remind me Green Day is one band that has longevity. Yes, I would agree with you that Green Day has
Yeah,
longevity, but
absolutely.
Bon Jovi's got a little bit more longevity because they started out in the early 1980s. And in fact, I actually know this, and you'll appreciate this because you're a Bon Jovi fan. He got his start, John Bon Jovi, because I believe his brother was Tony Bon Jovi, and he was a big record producer, and he used to hang out. There was a record place. It was in the city. I don't know if it might have been the record plant, and he actually used to kind of sweep and clean up afterwards overnight, and he started recording music, and that's kind of how he got the idea of starting a band, which led to Bon Jovi. This had to have been in the maybe early 80s, like 82, 83. So,
Yeah, they took off really fast, if I remember
yep,
hearing right.
yep. And
They
that's
like
how they,
really took off.
yep, yep. Mercury Records and all that stuff in there. I mean, there's a number of bands that we could go into when it comes to longevity, but we are here on Sports Wire Radio because we are not talking about music. We are talking about WCE, but also the news here about Rona's Championship Wrestling is getting ready to resume, and that championship belt that the resident rock star Shawn Jovi has on his shoulders, it is coming back. It is going to be an action-packed year from our friends over at WCE. For more information on Rona's Championship Wrestling, you can go to RCW Rules, and my name is the Reverend Tom Brice. And if you are on SportsWire Radio right now, you can follow us anytime on SportsWire Radio at Facebook, SportsWire Radio, YouTube at SportsWire Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And I say about 25 minutes or so to a half an hour, we will have on the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, who will have a lot to say about this, plus much, much more. So we will have more very soon with him, but let's get to some more comments. John Dietrich says, I think he meant to say Green Day hasn't been good since Dookie, which was like what, their second album, I think. Was that the second album, if I'm not mistaken? And he says, Green Day, I'll have another beer. We know this individual. He says, hi, everyone. So want to give him a big shout out. Anything you might want to say about this individual? I know he's big in kind of our history here in what led to WC. Anything you might want to say about this fellow?
Yeah, I don't know him well. I know he is a big piece of Wisconsin wrestling history when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to wrestling in the yard. But I think I wrestled him in 2010. Actually, it was for an indoor show called for UWA. It was in Spencer, Wisconsin. It was like one of those blink and you miss it towns,
Hmm.
and he seemed like a pretty good guy. I would love to meet him again, honestly.
Hmm.
I know he's retired; he doesn't wrestle anymore, but I would love to shake his hand and meet him again. He
Now
seems like a good guy then, good guy now.
let me ask you a question on this individual, if you don't mind me asking this. And I don't know who's listening when it comes to the powers that be at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Now, I get from the in ring side that this individual might be retired, but could this be somebody that maybe, I don't know, could maybe be involved in the company in some ways, maybe to help out some of the newer talent, or just be somebody that could, people can pick the brain off, because this guy's got a resume that's as good as anybody's. And I think Wisconsin, not only wrestling history but backyard wrestling history as well. Is that something that is a fair question to ask?
I mean, yeah, I would be all for him being have a role in WC in some way. I've heard a lot of great things about him. I've heard so many great stories. So I would love to have a veteran of his stature, whatever you want to call it. I would love to have him on board. I would love. I believe very heavily in WC and our cause to reignite wrestling in Wisconsin in the back through the backyard, through the underground means. And I think he would be a great piece to that puzzle of making it come all together. You know.
I would even go further in saying that Wrestling Championship Entertainment is reigniting backyard wrestling everywhere because
Oh
we
yeah.
bring you guys up all the time from different places, whether it's places like in Rochester that does backyard wrestling. We're going to have on a wrestler coming up, Stefan Havoc. And Stefan Havoc is a legendary wrestler out of Saratoga here in upstate. We're going to have on another wrestler coming up in another state and the week afterwards. And you guys come up all the time because there are videos out there which you can find on the Wrestling Championship Entertainment YouTube page that has 800, 900, 1,000, 3,000, 4,000 plus views. So what it says is that Wrestling Championship Entertainment is not just about reigniting the Wisconsin backyard wrestling scene. It's really everywhere because you guys get brought up all the time in all my segments because, as you know, I speak with people all over the world who are
That's true.
professional wrestlers, backyard wrestlers, and we're always talking about Wrestling Championship Entertainment. So you guys have kind of set the standard here, and that leads me into Wrestling Championship Entertainment and talk about what it meant to you on being named, which is no surprise to most of us here because we've had you on 3 or 4 different times, and being the
Right.
person that was best mic for this year. I mean, talk about what that meant to you to be the best on the mic in WCE in 2022.
As far as being best on the mic goes, I appreciate everyone who voted and picked me for it. Honestly, I didn't think I'd be in any of the awards this year, but I wound up with an award, so I can't say I'm not happy. I'm very satisfied and proud. But um, I think the vlogs and telling my story through the vlogs is what gets people hooked and want to listen to what I have to say. I don't know if that's true per se, but I feel like the story I tell it kind of lures people in and lets them understand and relate. And that's what I want to do is I want people to relate, whether they're backyard wrestlers, any person on earth. I just want to have a good time in life. I want people to enjoy the ride with me, whether it's watching me on YouTube or being there alongside.
Well, I think that's a really noble thing to say because if you think about everything going on in the world, I mean, that's certainly something that we could use much more of, and that's why I think it was well deserved. And certainly, I still say no surprise that you had wound up winning the award. And then, I mean, obviously, we spoke a lot about RCW, but now Wrestling Championship Entertainment. We even spoke about the fact that we've had a number of different announcements. We've seen all this stuff where we've seen views and thousands about shows and clips from different matches. Darkfire and Craven Rage is the match that I mean, it's just literally taken off like Darkfire. We asked Darkfire that question when he was here with you last month. But I mean, I would have to think then we're talking about all this recognition for WCE and for you as well. I mean, the pressure is on. I think maybe to have even a bigger 2023 than 2022. I mean, what's your thoughts on some of that?
And that's the goal is to make 2023 the big year. 2022 was great. I had a great year. I ended up with a positive winning record, so I can't complain about that. It was a good year, but 2023 is going to be my year. This is the year I want, and I am calling my shot now. I do have a rain check for the interstate openweight title as well. That was given up to me from management in WC for missing fight or fright due to COVID. So, and I have the right to cash that in. I have to cash in ahead of time and announce, but I get it any time this season. Any show this season, I get the title shot. Now I don't know when that's going to be. Haven't decided, but I will be watching very carefully the champions and the challengers and all that stuff going on this year. I will have my eye on the interstate title very closely. because that is something that is still on my list of things to accomplish in backyard wrestling.
So it sounds like before I get to some more comments that you're eyeing something here in 2023. Is that fair to say?
Oh yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I mean, I'll certainly maybe follow up with that. But first, let me get to some more comments here. Prince Charles says, speaking of awards, I'm declaring myself best commentary of WCE in 2022. I'll give an endorsement for that. I'll give a vote if that's the case. I think that that's a no-brainer, hands down. Prince
Oh yeah.
Charles definitely best on the microphone when it comes to commentary in wrestling
He loves
championship
Craven.
entertainment. Yep. Oh, we know that. Listen, we had him on here, and he certainly pledged his allegiances to Craven Rage, of course, the ruler of the WCE art. And speaking of Craven Rage has another response there for you because Craven Rage is here, and that's what he does. True words. You've got the only win against me in my career. But honestly, I know that it eats at your soul and mine that you fall into me. And yeah, I know the fact is that I'm just that good and I'm the longest defending reigning champion in WCE history. But however, I'm the one who destroyed you. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you again. Maybe champion versus champion, RCW champion and undisputed champion, Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite to see who's the best champion. So, I mean, if they're hearing that on what Craven Rage has said here, I mean, you think this is for him trying to, let's say, maybe skip over everybody else here and forget the open challenge? What do you make of these comments?
Well, same thing I said. Was it the same thing, Craven, that I said to Adonis Felios earlier on the stream and everyone? First one through that curtain on Showtime, it's your shot. So if you show up early, Craven, if you want to get a shot at this, because I'm sure there's going to be a long line when the season premieres.
But he's a champion. He's the undisputed champion. He's the Universal Grand Slam Wisconsinite champion. Does that give him the right to skip over everybody else or no?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
Craven, I mean, as much as I would fancy another match with Craven Rage, it's not necessary at this time. I want this belt to be elevated, and that means defending against people that maybe I haven't wrestled before. I want to do dream matches. I want to make this go crazy, and that's what the intention is at this time.
All right, that's fair. I can certainly respect that. Let me get to some more comments here because I have some new people in here. And this
Ooh.
individual, do you know an Eric E. Forsyth? Because he says here, year 2023 is going to be the Mecca takeover. And he gives a bunch of, I guess, mean emojis that says Mecca Hood. And then he's also says, checking this out, got to get intel before we strike. Any idea on who this
Oh,
person is?
I think I have a hunch.
You do.
And
Yeah.
honestly, I hope this person could potentially show up at that open challenge. I would.
Interesting.
He is also a Wisconsin backyard legend, I would say. The
Mm-hmm.
Meccas go far back, as far as I know. And Eric Mecca, Tim Mecca, they are legends in our state. And like I said, my goal is not to just defend this against the active roster, it's to face against the future roster, people of the past that I've never gotten the chance to face. And hey, I'm open to that. If the Meccas want to strike and take over, by all means, I'll be at the gate waiting for the takeover.
Well, I have to ask a follow-up question to you, the resident rock star Shawn Jovi. And I mean, is there anybody out there that you really would like to face, let's say, regardless of the open challenges? Is there anybody out there in different places that you say, you know what? I want to face off with that person, whether you faced off with them prior or did not face off with them.
There's definitely a list. Is it a written down list? Absolutely not. I'm not that
Okay.
well prepared. I'm not that well prepared, but I will
And
say there are definitely a number of people I would love to face again. A lot of people in Wisconsin backyard wrestling history I would love to face for the first time. That was kind of my goal. Like when Nicholas Crenson and I wrestled at Fighter Fight Day One. He's been around a long time too, and I never got to wrestle him. Same with James Marshall. They have been around a long time. Yes, I know I'm mispronouncing his name. It's what the resident rock star does.
uh,
But you know, it's it's one of those things where I want to face the very best, and I want to see where I line up against those people.
I find that fascinating, though, in the fact that your careers overlap so much with Cranston and Marshall, and yet you didn't face off with them all those years. Was there ever that, hey, I want to go against them, or that curiosity? I mean, walk me through
Well,
that.
a lot of it is social media wasn't booming as hard as it is now.
Sure.
I met them years later, and to my surprise, they used to backyard wrestle in Appleton around the time I was doing my stuff in De Pere, and that's like a half hour apart, and I would have had no idea. I didn't know about it until it was pretty much too late. So
Mm.
otherwise, I would have been in all those other feds like FBWA and YWL and all those other backyard promotions that existed in Wisconsin before my time or even during.
All right, that makes some sense. Good answer. And Craven Rage says, "I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the Mecca show up." Boy, Craven Rage just wants everybody to show up because he can say that he's the greatest and he's the goat, and he just gets through everybody. But I think right now he's got his own troubles though. Before we get to some closing thoughts here from you, the resident rock star Shawn Jovi, because I think that Craven Rage is probably going to be curious to hear from what our guest Monday night Kodak Kid is going to have to say on his injury update status. I mean, what's your
Ooh,
thoughts on that situation about Kodak Kid? He's going to be with us next Monday live around 9 p.m. Eastern time on Sports Wire Radio. I mean, what do you make of that whole situation there?
Kodak and I actually are go back a little ways before we even met each other, actually, and that's why I'm excited to see him come back. Kodak, his brother Dandy Dan, used to wrestle a couple shows with me back in the day, and honestly, he was probably one of the best opponents I had in that time frame.
Sure.
And when I met Kodak several years later, maybe like 10 years down the road from that, I got to reflect and I got to wrestle him, and I will definitely say he is like his brother, very, very talented, very, 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 very into wrestling, and he has a heavy passion for this business. And I want to face Kodak when he comes back at one point. If I'm still holding this at the time, which I'm sure I will be, I would love to face Kodak, but I will be tuning in Monday as well to be seeing what Kodak has to say. I can't wait to see him back in the ring because he's a very good wrestler. Very good.
Absolutely. He definitely is somebody that I think a lot of people are going to be curious to see if he's back in action in 2023. And that'll be next Monday on Sports Wire Radio. So, very, very excited about that. And Craven Rage is going to be in the house. And you know, Craven is going to have something to say here. And I think Eric has a comment here about it. He says, Sean is a legend in his own right and would make a great target to get straight back into the game for a comeback since he's on a red hot streak right now. Nothing but respect for the Jovi brand.
Thank you.
All right. I mean,
Appreciate
that's
that.
very nice words from him. And Craven Rage, believe it or not, he's got something nice to say about you. You ready?
Oh,
Calls you a legend.
ooh. Well, I appreciate that. You
There's,
know,
there's
and I mean, despite the history Craven and I have, he really is one hell of a competitor, and I do look forward to the next time him and I actually do get to face off. If and when that'll happen, who knows? But I would definitely say Craven is one of the better opponents I've ever had, and has given me some of the best matches I've ever had. Win, lose, or draw, doesn't matter. He elevated my career by a lot, and WCE in general has gotten me back on the launch pad that I fell off of years ago. So I really really appreciate the kind words from Eric and Craven. I guess it it's 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 nice to feel like I haven't lost a beat in what I've been doing the last couple of years compared to what I did like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on years ago. It's kind of nice to feel like I'm back in my element, and that's what 2023 is. I spent a year getting back in. 2023 is the year I go all out.
So do you feel fair to say then you feel rejuvenated right now?
Yes, the goal of the off season for me this year was to find the inner Jovi that may or may not be connected to my so-called pseudo father, John Bon Jovi himself,
I
as
was
I
gonna
call him.
ask you. You know, it's funny. After knowing you now for I think about 7 or 8 months, I was gonna wonder. You know, maybe you're kind of like John Bon Jovi's illegitimate son, or maybe
I
he's
like,
an uncle of yours. I mean, you guys look a little bit alike in the face. You know.
well, like I said, I call him my pseudo father because like he's not my dad, but I mean he is a Jovi, so I mean we'll just call him a stepfather figure or a pseudo dad, whatever
Well,
you want to call him.
I should probably tell you the story on the air here. You'll probably chuckle, but when I
Okay.
was a little kid, because I'm from New York, obviously, and they used to call me Baby Bon Jovi. I don't know if I really resembled Mr. Bon Jovi, but that was kind of my claim to fame when I was a kid. They would call me Baby Bon Jovi, and I still might have the locks. I don't know if I quite would say that I'm Mr. Bon Jovi, but you obviously could certainly make that case. But I thought you would chuckle at that story a little bit there.
Right. I love it.
Craven Rage here says, even though Shawn Jovi is a legend, but however, he is a fallen legend, especially to me. And he also points 16 years for Adonis Phillips. I believe that's 16 years coming up in April that Rona's
For
Championship
RCW.
Wrestling will have started. Yep. So that would make sense here. And also, we have here from, I believe I can say, Mr. Mecca, Craven Rage.
Mhm.
Your talent hasn't gone unnoticed, as well as my friend. All the major rage I hear from, I believe we can say it, Timothy Mecca about this up and coming superstar. Boy, I tell you what, it looks like shots might be fired here on Wrestling Championship Entertainment. It looks like we very well could be seeing some wrestlers from the past and some new names and some new championships that were familiar. I mean, there is a lot going on here. And that is why we love our friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment, who I want everybody to follow. Again, WCE Heat on Facebook, YouTube, WCEHeat.com, where you can get more information, whether it's on merchandise, past shows, anything related to all of our superstars, and especially our guest here, the resident rock star, Shawn Jovi. And before I get to closing thoughts here, Nicholas Crenton's going to be on here in about 5 or 10 minutes from now. But is there anything else that you might want to say to, let's say, whether it's WC Heat fans, Sports Wire fans, or maybe even RCW fans who've been listening in here tonight?
Um, well, yeah. It's been an honor to be on your show. Obviously, Tom, you're a great guy, a great host. I always love being on here.
Oh,
Um,
appreciate that.
and for the fans who tune in to watch it, whether it's me, you, whoever's on one day or another, keep tuning in, keep supporting this guy. And if you want to support me, follow me on YouTube. The handle's at RCW Rules. You can search Jovi's vlog or Shawn Jovi. You'll find me. I'm honestly not that hard to find. Um, and of course, you guys should subscribe to WC. You should subscribe to Sportswire Radio for Tom here if you haven't before.
No, I
Um,
appreciate that. I appreciate the Sports Wire plug.
I'm a big fan.
I appreciate that
Anyway,
very much. I certainly, and we've gotten a lot of new followers the last few months. I think we're up to over 500 followers on
you
Facebook, and
are.
we had one of our most recent shows get over 1,000 views. So I appreciate the support, but I most importantly want everybody to follow you because your vlogs are always some of my favorite ones. I even saw you got some new vlog utensils and supplies that are going to help us. I saw a new GoPro out
Yep.
there. I think you purchased, so I think the next couple
Yeah.
of vlogs are going to be even better because you're going to have
Yep.
some new tools to make the vlogs even better.
Yep. And I have been kind of messing around and trying to find ways to make the blog new, interesting, and kind of give it a refreshment for the new year. And since I've done that, actually, my viewership's gone up by about 10 or 20 views. So,
Oh, okay.
slow and steady wins the race.
Absolutely.
So
Listen, I've been doing this
it's
4 years.
going up.
Trust me, I know all about slow and steady in the race, and I'm coming up on my 4 year anniversary and doing this next week. And I always tell everybody that when I started doing this, there was no streaming like StreamYard, and there was really no Zoom. I started it on Skype, and all we had to post our content was SoundCloud. I was on just SoundCloud. You had to go to me on an audio only, and we didn't have all these tools. We're talking 4 years ago. So I mean, you think about where we've
Yeah, technology's
come from,
fast.
and it's a totally different world here. And also, I do have some more comments before I get to Cranston, so we're gonna hang on tight here for a few more minutes. Well, Eric, I definitely love for you to step into my yard. That is, of course, from Mr. Craven Rage. So I think that maybe is something I'll ask Craven when he's on next Monday. And Mr. Eric says, watching and hearing from and with Timothy Mecca has created a new hunger I haven't had in a while. Might have to get a front row seat to this dream match if it happens between Rage and Jovi. Well, I'll tell you what, for the RCW championship, it would be a dream. And but that's up to Shawn Jovi because it's Shawn Jovi's championship. And he decides right now, and he's got an open challenge that almost anybody in the wrestling world is going to have to decide who comes out of the apron first. Listen, if Roman Reigns, if he doesn't come out first, he ain't getting that shot. CM Punk, if Tony Khan lets him out of his contract, he doesn't get into that. He doesn't break through the curtain first. He doesn't get that shot. Doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. You don't come out first, you're not getting that title shot because Shawn Jovi, the resident rock star, has set the rules. My friend, I want to give you the floor. Anything else you want to plug, share, say before the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, comes on here? Floor is yours.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and listening to my story. I'd like to thank you, Tom Brice, for being such a great host, and your hospitality is always appreciated when I'm on the show. I would like, if anybody hasn't followed me on YouTube before, please give my channel a look. Look up Shawn Jovi. Look up Jovi's vlog. You'll find it. Just give it a look, and hopefully, if you like it, you please subscribe. I would love to have another follower, or two, or three, or five. Like
No,
I'm
ask for
trying to
like
get out there.
10,000. Listen, don't put a limit. Get as many of them as you can because
Yeah,
we all need
take
the
what I.
followers.
Oh yeah, everyone needs a follower. So I mean, the following I've gotten since coming back has been really nice, and I think everyone who's been on this journey with me or tunes into the journey with me, it's it's been a wild ride for these last 15, 16 years. I've been doing this half my life now.
You
I'm
do know
32.
that
Going on
you should have said almost one wild night like the 2001 Bon Jovi live album.
Oh,
You missed
that's a
that
good
one
one
there.
too. Yeah, I don't know how I missed it. Honestly, I used to have the DVD of the One Last Wild Night concert at
Yep.
the end of that tour.
And I don't know if
So
you remember this or not, by the way. I don't know if you remember this, but VH1 actually played the concert when the album came out. I don't know if you remember that at all, but they actually
I think
had
I do.
played it. Okay, all right, fair enough. I figured you would have appreciated that. Yeah, I figured that
Yeah,
the one wild night would have
vaguely, but I vaguely remember it. But yeah,
Okay. All right. Yep. Yep. That was the days when VH1 played rock videos still, and Bon Jovi they had played. I want to give a shout out before I let you go to my very good friend Jimmy Gorman, and Jimmy's one of my guys because when I had season tickets to the New York Islanders, the hockey team, Jimmy used to sit in my row, and I miss Jimmy, and I haven't seen him since before COVID, and I keep saying I'm going to get out there to Long Island, and I haven't got out there yet, so I have to figure out a way, and I hope that Jimmy is well, and Jimmy's always been one of my favorites and on and off the ice. And Mr. Mecca says, "Oh, Craven on next Monday," and Craven has confirmed. And Adonis Felio says, "Can't wait to get a first shot. That title is mine." Well, again, we're gonna find out.
well,
We're gonna
really,
find out. But I'll tell you what, the resident rock star Shawn Jovi. I know you're a busy man. You've got interviews lined up. You've got vlogs to get to. You've got concerts to go to, and you've got maybe a Zoom call with Bon Jovi to talk about maybe the will that he's gonna put you in, and all the different
oh
stuff out
yeah,
there. Maybe you'll give us insight on maybe new Bon Jovi music or a tour. So I know you're a busy man, and I thank you and thank you for all you do for us and. Congratulations on the news here with the RCW championship.
thank you so much, Tom. It's been a
I appre-
pleasure as always.
I definitely appreciate that. And also here, before I let you go, a few more comments. Craven Rage says, I would love for you to come to check out our shows and be a part of Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Working on that. Jimmy Gorman, yep, love you too, bro. Thank you for everything. I definitely will see you soon. And Prince Charles says, don't make me laugh, Adon. Because, of course, Adonis Felios and Prince Charles have their issues, and we'll talk about that next time. But, my friend, I can't thank you enough, and we'll speak with you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
All right, and that was the resident rock star Shawn Jovi.